And we are on air.
Hi guys, my name is Brianna and today I'm going to be sharing with you my top 15 Avengers. So let's get right into the video. So I've been getting into Marvel much more lately and I've been recently watching all the Avengers movies with my boyfriend. I have seen all of them in the past but only like once each. So we watched them again and we watched some of the characters' individual movies too. So I thought it would be fun to go through who my top 15 Avengers are. So just so you guys know, this video will be filled with spoilers. So if you haven't seen these movies, I suggest you watch them and then come back. Just to clarify, it does get a little confusing who exactly is considered an Avenger. So my boyfriend helped me make a big master list of everyone the two of us thought was an Avenger, and then I picked my top 15 out of that big list. So if you disagree with anyone on this list, you can comment down below and we can have a chat about it. Or if you think I left someone out who might have been considered my top 15 that maybe wasn't in my master list, you can comment those too and I'll let you know if they were considered for my 15 or not. But yeah, let's just get through it. So if you've been watching my channel for a while, you would already know who my number one's gonna be. Spider-Man. Spider-Man is just my favorite superhero in general, so of course he's gonna be my favorite Avenger too. Then my number two is Iron Man. And now Iron Man is a flawed character, but I think at the end of the day he is always looking out for the world's best interest while also taking his personal feelings into account. And I think that's why sometimes he gets viewed as selfish, but I don't think so. I think the mistakes that he's made haven't actually been mistakes. He just couldn't get people to round with him to make those decisions, and doing them alone turned into mistakes. Like Ultron. If the whole team rallied and did it with him, it might have turned out differently and they could have had the weapon they needed to help fight Thanos later on. So I think a lot of those mistakes are just that people don't think his decisions are right. But even up to the end, before he died, yeah, he was planning on retiring soon, but he wasn't planning on stopping helping people. Even when he's not going to fight anymore, he still wants to do everything in his power to make sure that there are people ready who can fight and that he can help provide, whether it's the science or cost of new technology. You know, he's never going to quit helping. He was just gonna quit fighting. And I don't think that's selfish. I think that's doing the good for the world and taking his own feelings into consideration at the same time, and I think that's healthy. Then my number three is Groot. I love Groot. Whether it's baby Groot or full-size Groot, I think Groot's amazing. Adorable, fun, funny. I love the Groot and Rocket relationship there. And also Groot is just so selfless. And Groot's magic is so cool too. Like, nothing bad to say about Groot. Then my number four is gonna be Wanda, or the Scarlet Witch. And I know that this one is a little bit controversial. Me and my boyfriend had a big conversation about whether or not Wanda should be so high up. But I personally think that Wanda is such a compelling character. Also, keep in mind when I'm talking about Wanda, I'm not just talking about the Avengers. We watched the show WandaVision too, so that gives us more information about Wanda and her backstory and all of that. But Wanda didn't even know she was a witch. She thought she had no powers until her interaction with the Mind Stone and the Avengers and all of that, and when she gains her powers there. She didn't know that she was always a witch. But then she loses her parents in Sokovia when she's a kid, and then she loses her brother fighting, and then she loses Vision, and then Vision is brought back and she has to watch Vision die. Like, her life is awful. And then you want to talk WandaVision, like, yeah, maybe it was selfish that she created this whole world and it was hurting other people. But one, she didn't start it on purpose. She was just so low in her mind that her magic just manifested itself to cope. And once she realized that she created this whole world, she didn't realize she was hurting people. So when she was being selfish and wanting to keep this world, yeah, I don't blame her for that. She's trying to cope. But once she has that big battle at the end and she finds out she's hurting all of these people, she gives up what's helping her cope for the greater good, and then she's left with nothing again. Like, time and time again, she's faced with trauma after trauma after trauma, and she still is the better person at the end of it and helps other people. So I really like Wanda. Next, my number five is Thor. Thor is a great guy. Just point blank, he's a great guy. He has his own personal struggles, but overall, he always does the right thing. his magic's really cool, and he has the whole arc of realizing that the hammer isn't what has the power, it's him. And I mean, no matter how much Loki puts him through and does things, he will do enough to stop Loki to save people, but he always has his brother's back at the end of the day. So he's both loyal to the greater good and his brother because he knows deep down that his brother cares. But then when his sister is in the picture and she just wants damage, he puts aside the fact that it's his sister for the greater good and does what he has to. And then his whole love arc story with Jane is just, I love it, just great characters. Then my number 6 is Hulk, and again, this is a situation where it's just, he's such a good guy. He tried in the beginning to just stay isolated because he knew he couldn't control the Hulk, and he could have just stayed isolating his whole life and been away from everyone, but he decided to put in the effort to not only learn how to control the Hulk, but literally combine himself and the Hulk together to create a better version so that he can help the world. He put in years of effort just to help the world when he could have just stayed in isolation forever and not cared. And I think that's super admirable. Then my number 7 is Vision, and Vision is such an interesting character to me because he's not really a person, but he is. He's an AI, and the only reason that he feels things and has a real personality, I think, is because of the Mind Stone. However, something interesting that I'm sure we'll see more about as more movies come out is they recreate Vision, and this is in WandaVision, and he doesn't have the Mind Stone anymore, but he has the memories, and they kind of talk about what makes someone real, or just anything real in general. If you replicate something, is it the real thing? But if the original doesn't have the memories, is that the real thing? And they basically boil it down to the memories what makes something real. And even though he's a replica, he's made from the original Vision body and has all of Vision's memories. So I'm curious to see if moving forward he'll have the same personality and the same feelings and be the same Vision, or because they coded him differently, is he going to be a different character? It's just overall incredibly compelling because he's not a person, but he is. I don't know, it's beyond fascinating to me. Next is Doctor Strange, and I really struggled on where to put Doctor Strange because the idea of Doctor Strange is really cool. He is a doctor who got injured, then goes on this journey to recover himself so he can continue saving people's lives, and then he learns how to handle magic so he can save lives in a different way now. And that storyline in itself is really, really interesting. But Doctor Strange himself is not that good of a guy. Even when he was originally a doctor, he didn't actually care about saving lives. He cared about the accolades and his percentages. And if he didn't think he could save you, he wouldn't help you. Even if he was your best bet at survival and you would not survive if he didn't operate on you, because it's too risky, he wouldn't help. So he didn't care about actually trying to help as many people as possible. He cared about making sure that he had 100% success rate and was always doing bigger and better things, and it wasn't about the people. And then he goes on this journey and he learns about magic, and some people argue this is where he gets his redemption arc, and when he becomes a sorcerer supreme that he cares and he's saving the world and blah blah blah. I disagree. I think he's still kind of a bad dude. He doesn't actually care about saving anyone, in my opinion. He cares about the title and the responsibility, and he has the responsibility and the title of sorcerer supreme, and the only reason he will try to save lives is because if he fails, he loses the title and responsibilities. And so I think him being in a position where he has to do good to keep his title makes him seem like a good guy, but I think it's the same thing he was doing as a doctor. He was disguising his intentions as good deeds, but really he didn't care about the good he was doing. He cared about what he was getting out of it. And so that's why he's kind of mid-level for me, because the idea of the character is something I really enjoy and I really like and could go so far, but I just think that Doctor Strange is a jerk and doesn't care about anyone else and is selfish. So it's like, I don't know. Then 9 is Black Widow or Natasha. I personally like her most for how she helps other people's storylines progress, and that's why she's not low, but she's not super high. I mean, all the things she does for Hulk and Hawkeye storylines are so compelling and interesting, and she really does move their storylines along quite a bit. And then the reason she's not low, even though there's not so much specifically to her that I love, is I just think that she's a good person, and it's so admirable that not only was she willing to sacrifice her life to help everyone else, but even when someone else was willing to make the sacrifice, she fought to be the one who died. She fought to make sure nobody else would die, even though someone was willing to do it for her. She could have survived and they would have still won, but she gave up her own life unnecessarily and fought with someone else to make sure that they didn't die. And so I think she is genuinely a really good person. I just overall don't find her character super compelling, just more so what she does for other people's storylines, if that makes sense, but I don't know. Then my number 10 is Wong, and it's mostly just because I think he is such a funny character, and outside of the Avengers, I've seen a lot more of him because we watched She-Hulk as well, and I think his character is so funny because he really cares about following the rules in the sense of the universe and following the laws of the universe. But he does not care in the slightest about the rules and laws of humans. And it's really interesting to see a rule follower break so many rules in the funniest ways and just not care and just do his own thing. And I love it. I think it's funny. But again, we don't get to see that much of his character, and that's why he's not ranked higher. But I just think he's a funny, interesting character because he's a rule follower who breaks rules, and like that's just comical to me. Then my 11 is Rocket, and this is one where I really wasn't sure where to place him either, because if you take the fact that he's a raccoon out of it, he's kind of just like a jerk, angry old guy, but him being a raccoon makes it funny. And I also do really love his relationship with Groot, and I do think that we do see progress and we do see Rocket starting to change, and I'm excited to see more Guardians of the Galaxy to see if the changes that he's made are gonna stick and he's gonna stay a good person, or if he's gonna go back to kind of being a jerk. We'll see. I need more out of him before I can see if I think he's a good guy or not. Next, I put Quill or Star-Lord. I think that he's another funny character, and I think he is a good guy. The reason he's ranked so low is because I don't think he really genuinely cares about saving the world. I think that he's just a good guy, and when he's thrown into a position where he either has to be a bad guy or a superhero, he's choosing superhero. But if he had his life started all over and his mom lived and he stayed home with his mom, I don't think he would have ever done anything remarkable. I don't think he would have tried to save the world or anything. Like, he just would have been a normal dude. I think his circumstances made him choose between being a bad guy and being a really good guy. He didn't have an option to just be normal. And I think that's why he's a superhero, if you want to call him a superhero. I don't think it's because he actually wants to or cares to, you know? So that's why I have him ranked a little lower, even though I do think he is a good guy. It's just how much of that really is him and how much of that is his experiences and just him not being an awful guy. I don't know. Then 13 is War Machine. I don't really have that much to say about War Machine. He's a good guy, kind of like a second Iron Man. That's pretty interesting, pretty compelling. He did get seriously hurt. He got paralyzed, and it is admirable whenever any of them put their lives on the line. But like I said, not much else to say about him. He's a good guy, but there's not anything super compelling about his character. Then for 14, I have Gamora. Gamora, I have a lot of respect for because she grew up in an awful situation. She hates her dad. She had a tumultuous relationship with her sister, but she still tries to fix things with Nebula, and she tries to help people fight back against her dad. She very easily could have been like, my childhood sucked. My dad hurt me. My sister wants to kill me. I'm just gonna dip. And she could have just ran away, stayed in isolation away from everyone. But she chooses to fight and help the world recover from what what her dad's trying to do to them, because she understands and she knows Thanos better than anyone else, and she's the best bet at fighting him. So she is willing to help, even though I wouldn't blame her for running away. I think the only reason I have her so low is because I wish we got more out of her. I understand why her character died and why we're not getting her back, and yeah, it's good for the storyline and all, but I can't rank her high unless I get more out of her character, and we don't get to see what happens. She's dead. We don't get to see if her character would have progressed more or changed or anything like that. You know, she doesn't have much of an arc. She's a good guy, always was a good guy, always fought back against her dad. Like, I don't know, her life was rough, but there's no arc. She always was a good person. Then 15 and last on my list is Captain America, and I know a lot of people rank Captain America much higher, but to me, even though he's a cool hero, I think it's really interesting how he absorbs and bounces energy back off, and when him and Thor are together and the hammer hits and bounces the energy and like all that kind of stuff, and the fact that Captain America can hold Thor's hammer, very interesting storyline. But Captain America as the person himself, he's a jerk. He's selfish. He doesn't care. And it's not even that I blame him, because if this was the real world and I suddenly was a superhero, I don't think I could handle it or would do it either. But if you act like that, you're not getting ranked high. You know what I mean? I think he acts like he wants to follow the rules, but he actually doesn't care about the rules at all. He cares about what he thinks is right. And also, in the end of it, he could have stayed and retired, but kept helping by helping train people, helping figure out new ways to fight. But he went back in time and selfishly had his whole life lived back in the past, where he didn't even have an option to help anyone, lived a low-key normal life, which again, like I said, great for him, but he's not getting ranked high if he's not doing more for the world. Now, he comes back as an old man when he's about to die. He doesn't train anyone, he doesn't help figure out who's gonna be the next fighters or anything like that. He just wasted his life away in a way that was good for him, but not helpful for the greater good. And yeah, he passes his shield along to Falcon, but Captain America is a good fighter, and what if they lose a battle now because they don't have him and the world suffers? He didn't care or think about what would happen to everyone else. He just cared about him not wanting to fight anymore and wanting the life he never got because he was frozen in ice. And I support his decision for him, but he's not a good superhero, if that makes sense. He's not a good Avenger if he's putting his own personal desires before everyone else. And that's just my opinion. Of course, there are way more people that weren't included in this. This was only my top 15, but if you agree or disagree, let me know. We can talk about it in the comments down below. But for now, that's it for today's video. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Happy VEDIN, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Mwah!